Get ready to claim your No prize because the MCU movies finally have the same continuity problems as the comic books. I'm DJ Wooldridge, and this is Screen Junkies News.
Today's episode is brought to you by the new Samsung Chromebook Plus, the first Chromebook made for Google Play.
Writer Alex Ledbetter for Screen Rant may have discovered a crack in the world-building armor of the MCU. Spider-Man Homecoming, now out, has some confusing details about when the movie takes place in relation to the existing Marvel films. Don't worry, this story is spoiler-free. But according to a title card in Homecoming, the events of the movie take place 8 years after the events of the first Avengers movie, placing Homecoming in the year 2020. Here to put on both of our thinking caps and our tinfoil hats is Roth Cornett. Hello.
Hello. I can promise you no thinking cap. I do have a tinfoil hat.
Tinfoil hat we have ready to go.
It's Friday. Nobody has their thinking cap on.
So this article goes into great detail about it. But even when you saw it, you were saying that you and your friends were talking about it. And you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's so funny because we talked about this a little bit this morning, and certainly Alex dives deep into the facts and the figures and the numbers. So it's great. You should check out the article. But even after just seeing the film, I think it's a fun thing for fans to do, to examine the evidence about any given thing in a comic book movie. There'll be lots to talk about with that once everybody's seen it. But spoiler free, we did talk about the timeline because it definitively says, okay, this takes place 8 years after the Avengers and 2 months after Civil War. And the math just didn't totally add up to us. We were saying, okay, so it's taking place in the future.
Yeah, well, and it's challenging because when you do a connected universe, when you say all this stuff is connected, that's a lot of spinning plates to keep track of.
It is. It's a lot.
And then you put that thing up because it really does. Like 8 years later, like, sure, I guess. So the general understanding of the timeline as it is now is that Iron Man is supposed to take place in 2010.
And here's the thing. So Iron Man came out in 2008.
Yes. But
once they realized that, so Kevin Feige has this notorious continuity map. That he has.
Which has to be a room at this point.
Which has to be like an entire conference room with a team of humans involved in making sure it works. But then he had this idea for the shared universe well before it actually happened. So when they saw like, hey, Iron Man worked, we can actually go for this. Then they sort of had to make things work together, which is why they sort of reverse engineered it so that it took place in 2010.
Which plays into, there was a Time comic called Fury's Big Week, which between that and other Easter eggs in the movies, Iron Man 2 and Thor and Incredible Hulk all are supposed to take place in the same week.
Right.
And the general understanding is that Avengers is supposed to take place in the year it came out, which is 2012.
Now let's do caveats because let's say first of all, I really like Spider-Man Homecoming and I think you should go see it and I'm excited that it's doing well. This is us having fun because we're nerds or I don't even know, weird and have not enough to do. But so general understanding is that it takes place in 2012. General understanding based on what we're not sure. We're just sort of assuming that.
That seems to be the consensus that the people that care about this have come to. You and I were like, does it say?
Does it say that?
We're 16 movies deep now, so it's like, wait, was there a specific thing? There are movies like Doctor Strange goes out of its way to emphasize that it's in 2016. And so
if you guys, honestly, if you have little if there's a cutaway or a piece like a newspaper or something that you can identify that is absolutely in 2012, leave that in the comments, please.
No, but here's where it does become confusing because no matter how you slice it, Avengers is supposed to take place a couple years after Iron Man.
Correct.
In Civil War, Vision says it's 8 years after Tony Stark revealed himself as Iron Man.
Right, which then would put that in 2018, and this is where it gets crazy for Spider-Man. So that would mean that was 2018. And if Spider-Man takes, because if Iron Man is 2010, so that means that takes place in 2018, which if Spider-Man takes place 2 months after that, then Spider-Man is in 2018. But if it's 8 years after the Avengers and the Avengers is in 2012, then it's in 2020. So it's in both 2018 and 2020 at at the same time, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. That's how they get out of it.
Seriously, that is the way. I really think that's if this becomes a thing that fans are like bothering Kevin Feige about, the answer will be Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He screwed it all up. Yeah, he stopped Dormammu, but he messed up the timeline. Because where it lands is perfect too, because it lands in between Civil War and this movie.
Yes.
So it's a perfect out. But with that in mind, do you think that this was a
So when does Doctor Strange take place?
It takes place in 2016.
2016, right?
The year it came out.
Which
the year it came out. I have to check.
But there's also a time gap in Doctor Strange, obviously.
Yes.
So, okay.
This is where we get the tinfoil hats out.
I think this ultimately, this is not necessary. This is Marvel. This is an unwieldy monster that it's created in terms of if you count the Netflix series, if you count Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all of the movies. This is a lot for them to manage, and the fact that the continuity mostly makes sense. Look, there's continuity issues in any given movie, and you can find them if you're looking for. One of my favorites, as a very small side note, is in Children of Men, because it's with a cat. Yeah. And like they're having a conversation every time they turn around, the cat's in a different position in the conversation. And it's amazing in the middle of this really dark movie.
Yeah.
But so they all have them. And there's other continuity issues in Homecoming that I will not address right now because I don't want to get into spoilers. But they say that it's one day of the week, but then a minute later it's a different day of the week, things like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If you walk out of the movie and you had a good time and you like the characters and you connect with them, it really doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Does it to you?
Not as long as
like,
the
is
movie
it going to ruin
good.
the experience?
No. As long as the movie is good and as long as it tracks, I think it's important. I'm a big believer, as somebody that's been reading the comic books for a while, and that very definitely is on a sliding timeline. Like Cyclops is in his 30s, but he's been around since the 60s.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I'm a very big believer in like, don't give specific dates. Don't like, I really think it should have just said years later and left it ambiguous, and then we'll figure it out. Because especially in a situation like this, don't trap yourself in a corner. Don't date yourself. Just let it exist in an ever-changing now.
Do you feel like, because it's not as unwieldy, certainly, as X-Men, right? In terms of the continuity, right?
No continuity is as complicated as X-Men continuity, and I don't know. It's not even. It's probably. I mean, it's probably veering close towards the X-Men movie continuity, but no continuity is as complicated as comic book continuity.
Well, no, and I'm actually not even touching that. I'm talking about in terms of the movie continuity. And the truth is that
the fact that each Wolverine movie takes place in kind of its own timeline.
In its own timeline, yeah. But when you're watching Deadpool or even Logan, you're not thinking about that for a second. You don't care. I mean, when you get out, you might be like, all right, so wait, when does this take place?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, because I actually like the way Fox handles the timeline in that they don't care.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Mystique and Professor X are friends doesn't really make sense, but it's a good movie, so you don't care. Like First Class is a good movie, so you don't care.
Yeah.
And so as long as the story is good, as long as the story, the internal story tracks, and as long as it's not egregious, like Spider-Man's hanging out with 12-year-old Tony Stark, and you're like, wait a second, you know what I mean? As long as it's not that.
Well, and then there was the Easter egg, the Peter Parker Easter egg, which I think at the time was really just an Easter egg, right?
Well, it's just supposed to be a kid, the classic kid dressed up as a hero.
Iron Man 2.
In Iron Man 2. And then the joke was that maybe it was a young Peter Parker, and now they have an opportunity to make that happen, but to make it work, because that kid's probably like 6.
Yeah.
So to make that work, there would need to be some timeline juggling. Do you think that is important enough to Kevin Feige to cause this problem?
No, I mean, I don't. I think that there may be a couple of reasons why they would want to actually definitively place this in 2020. Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit earlier too. Mm-hmm. You've got, the issue is that you now have, Spider-Man is going to be a part of Avengers in terms of Infinity War and Avengers 4, but also there's 2 more Spider-Man movies. So if Spider-Man, let's not even get into Venom. Yeah. I don't want to go there right now. I cannot do it. My brain can't handle it. It's Friday. I've not had a drink yet. But they want to keep him in high school.
Yes.
Right? So for the next 2 solo Spider-Man films, he's going to be a junior and then a senior. So if this is 2020, by the time we get to those movies, which will be a couple of years away each at least, it starts to sort of make sense and work within a framework of that time period, that actual real world time period. I don't know when the 2 Avengers movies are going to take place, And then, yeah, when you start getting into these expanded universes and how they all work together, it is going to get very, very complicated.
Yeah.
And that's when you have Doctor Strange come in and be like, I messed it up.
I'm sorry, guys.
Reset.
I messed it up. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right because they want to keep him. I think this is all a big effort to allow the next 2 Spider-Man movies to keep in high school, which storytelling-wise I think is the right call.
Yeah, I do.
And so fine, do whatever juggling you need. But you're right. It is weird because between Avengers, Infinity War, and Avengers 4, which now with this scenario should theoretically be happening back to back, but there's going to be a Captain Marvel movie in between them.
Yeah.
And so it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And we feel sorry for the people chained to that conference room that we discussed earlier that have to work this out and then have jerks like us coming in and being like, wait a minute.
Listen, let those guys out into get some fresh air and give them some food, man. They need to be unchained from the continuity corner.
The continuity chain.
So
did you guys know? I mean, honestly, the people that you've seen Spider-Man now, several people seen this out in the open. Did you notice any of this? Did you care? Does it impact your viewing experience at all? I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, same here. And also, if you've got the breakdown of like this article is very detailed, but if you've got like time codes and stuff, I'm actually kind of interested to see. I'm kind of interested to see like where things fall within the movies, and if the movies specifically reference what time span they take place in.
You know, so I have a couple of friends, and it was actually the friend of mine that we were talking about this.
Yeah.
After we saw the movie, I swear to you, went back and recut every single Marvel Studios movie in order. Up through Ultron.
That's dedication.
Yeah, that is dedication. So he's the person that I'm going to talk about this. I also would love to talk to you guys about it at Comic-Con, where we will be.
Yes. Segue. So you guys news is going to be at Comic-Con covering all the news.
We're going to be there. We're going to be covering news. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be doing live morning shows and coverage. We also have a big, awesome event. Screen Junkies Central will be going back to Comic-Con at the House of Blues, and that's on that Saturday, the 22nd.
So Screen Junkies is coming to San Diego, and from what I understand, you guys are completely sold out.
Yeah, the tickets are currently sold out. There's sort of like a waiting room list that's going on with the tickets right now. We're actually trying to figure out how we can fit more people in and still be very safe for everyone because we want you guys to see it. But there's also we do have a prize. It's not no prize day. There's a prize.
There's a prize. There's a link down below, and you can go to that link and you can apply for a competition that will get you to San Diego, get you to Screen Junkies Central. It's a sweepstakes, but you have to be 21 and older.
Correct.
And you have to be in the United States.
Correct.
I think that's everything. I think that's all the information there is to go. So go to that link, check that out, because who doesn't want to be in San Diego with us?
Exactly. That's amazing. We're going to have a big fan event. You can come talk to us. You can tell me all about how this timeline actually does or does not work. I would be so excited. I'm not even kidding. I love talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
It ultimately doesn't impact my viewing experience. I just do think it's a fun part of movie going right now.
Yeah. It's a fun game to play.
It's a fun game to play. Thank you for playing with me.
Yeah, of course, Roth. Thank you for joining me and discussing this wild, wild world of continuity with me. In the comments down below, please let us know all that information about the continuity that we know you have. We know you have it. Don't keep it from us. Thank you for watching this video. Please check out more videos on Screen Junkies News. Make sure you subscribe. Tweet us at SJ News, and we will see you next time.
Thanks to the Samsung Chromebook Plus for helping make this possible.